Hello everybody, good evening. Kind of forgetting what day it is already on this Monday, right? Monday. So we got the new update. So lava is entering the ocean near Malamaki, near Kiayalaka area, and it's still entering the ocean. So there's a new pulse that is actually coming through, going through from Halimamau all the way down to here. So we're feeling a lot of earthquakes around. We had a 3.7 earthquake, but that was pretty deep. It was 4 miles deep. Where was that, Phil?
That was on the south flank.
South flank, yeah. So there's still earthquakes, and a bunch of people felt it in Leilani Estates, and
it should be normal to expect more earthquakes as that whole south flank adjusts. Yeah, that's going to go on for a while.
Right. So we haven't been on the field too much today. There's a lot of stuff that is happening in the field. Also, lava has entered PGV property, pretty close to PGV. So noticing there's a lot of concern about PGV and what's happening there. Also, the flows that have entered PGV is pretty much getting closer to the lower part of the area, but we're lucky that PGV is on a hillside. It's kind of elevated a little, so it's still likely to reach PGV, but it's highly unlikely to reach it really soon. But still there is flows that is going that way. Also, fissure 22 and 20 is still active right now, so that's what's happening. There's the fissure 20 and 22 is responsible of all the lava headed down to the ocean. So with that being said, we have our special guest again with us, all the way from Volcano area. His name is Philip Ong, and he was a volunteer for USGS back in the day, so he knows a lot about geology. So if anybody, he's going to be talking about what's happening now, and the earthquakes and what to see in the near future, and then we'll be asking if anybody has any questions, not about PGV but about the lava flows that is happening right now. So without further ado, Mr. Philip. How's it going, Philip?
Good.
So what's happening today? What we're seeing?
Well, so I think the big change from yesterday has got to do with the big crack at fissure 20. Yeah. So you look at our map here, and what's clear is that we actually still have 2 channels going down to the ocean. But yesterday, before the crack opened up, we had a channel coming down this eastern side, wrapping around down over here also. And it looks like the crack cut that one off and kind of focused all the lava coming out from a smaller area around fissure 20. We'll wait for the sirens. Yeah, so it looks like all the lava that was coming out that whole long fissure is kind of focused into a smaller area at fissure 20, but it's actually still putting out a flow that's going down to the ocean on the west side, east side and the west side both, it looks like now. So that's really the biggest change. So the fountains are coming out from a smaller area, which means they're probably getting slightly taller, but we haven't noticed them being like gigantically tall or anything like that. So it's kind of the same as yesterday.
So there's 4 fissures that is still open. Fissure 6 that got reactivated again today, which is that one there, and also 22, 20, and 17. 17 is kind of 17 is pretty much it's still active, but it's still weak. It's actually a weak scattering, they're saying. So with that being said, that's a new update for today. As far as if anybody has any questions for Philip, you can answer any questions. So
yeah, well, one thing I can say that this come up in the last comments from the last one is that a lot of questions about how all the volcanoes on the Big Island are connected. And they're all connected very deep down under the crust of the earth. So each one's got a separate feeder that comes up and feeds each volcano. So the magma of each one doesn't connect. It's not going to cause lava to erupt from Hualalai, or Mauna Loa, or Mauna Kea, or Inidia, or Loihi, right? They're all separate. They do all kind of lean on each other, so it could be that Kilauea moves, which has been doing a lot recently. The Mauna Loa is going to move also because there's more space, since it's not being pushed on, yeah? Usually what happens with Kilauea and Mauna Loa is when one is erupting, it kind of is spreading and pushing the other one closed, and then it kind of alternates and it flips to the opposite eruption style, yeah?
Do we have a question?
Not always.
We have a question from Dan Kramer. In regards to magma going under PGV, is that probable?
Magma has always been going under PGV. That's probably why they chose that site, is because the ground was extra hot there. Yeah, they didn't have to drill down as far to get the heat to drive the energy to generate the power. Yeah, so magma's been under there the whole time, and that's normal, and that's not cause for concern in and of itself. One thing about PGV, we don't get into the details of like how the PGV wells work, because I just don't know. But what we do know is that I forgot where I was going to go with that. What we do know is that the magma is going through there for a long time, yeah, and it's going underneath it and popping up the fissures on the side. And yeah, I forgot what comment I was going to make with that. Sorry.
Has Halemaumau magma shown up in these vents yet?
Not that I know of, but there's not as big a difference between Pu'u lavas and Halemaumau lavas, because Halemaumau was actually feeding Pu'u, and there is a little bit of delay, and some changes do happen, but it's not as big a change as what you see between Pu'u lavas and lavas that were from 55 or earlier before. Yeah.
Okay, I got another question. What's the likelihood of it spreading to HPP?
Very little. To get to HPP, the lava is going to flow out from a much higher point in the rift zone, or it's going to be flowing to the north side of the rift zone. So HPP is right now all in the clear.
What are the chances of a fissure opening up further up the hill, like above 130, upper rift?
The chances are still pretty good that happens. Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what the bulk of the magma coming through the system is going to do. So it could actually back up the pressure and crack open over there. That's similar to what happened in 55. So we'd be foolish not to think that could happen again, right? Maybe we should bring up the 55 map again. That'd be useful. Give me 1 second here.
So is Nana Valley going
so
to have to evacuate with the progression of the lava and how soon? I don't think Nana Valley will have any evacuation right now because of just how far it's away. But the only thing that it could evacuate is because of the SO2 levels or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So, but looking at 55, you know,
this is the 55 flow.
Yeah. Remember, this thing lasted 87 days, right? And we're not even a quarter of the way there now. Maybe about a quarter of the way there with that eruption now. And towards the very end of that eruption, you can see that the last fissures open up were actually on the other side, the west side of 130, right? 3, 4, 5, 6 were all kind of near 130. So we have no idea that's going to happen again, but we know it has happened before, so we know it is possible.
Right.
Yeah. So we better prepare for that. We had a lot of questions, people living in Black Sands, and the best advice is be prepared, because it could easily happen over there and cut off the road, even if not go through the neighborhood itself.
Where is the rift zone?
The rift zones, so the rift zone goes kind of all through here. You guys want to see the hazard map?
Hazard map, yep.
Okay, hold on 1 second to pull up the hazard map. This might not be the most current pretty one, but where is it here? Hazard map. Okay, the hazard map answers the rift zone question a little bit also. So on this hazard map, there's numbers from 1 to 9. 1 is where the rift zones are, right? That's the place where the ground can crack open with fissures and the lava can come out from the ground right there. So zone 1 is the most dangerous place as far as fissures opening up, right? And Leilani is right over here. Right? So that you can see it's right on that zone 1, and that's why it's been a likely place for an eruption for a long time. In fact, it was inevitable it was going to happen there at some point. Zone 2 in here is everything downhill from zone 1. So It's not as bad as the crack opening up in your living room, but downhill, it's going to go downhill somewhere. We're not going to cover the whole area, but as we're seeing now, it's going to cover little ribbons going down to the ocean, yeah? Zone 3 is what Hilo is built in. It's what a lot, there's a lot of areas in Zone 3. For an insurance company, Zone 3 is what they consider normal, acceptable risk, right? You get regular insurance in Zone 3. So that's kind of everywhere in the world has got some kind of hazard, whether it be a tornado or a flood or who knows what. And the insurance guys who study that and make those adjustments, they think Zone 3 is quote unquote normal, okay? So beyond that, there's not much point to go beyond that for our discussion today. But the important thing is Zone 1, Southwest Rift, Southeast Rift of Kilauea, and Mauna Loa has also got that similar pattern right there. Yeah.
I have a question. How deep do you estimate the stored lava from the 55 flow was under the rift zone?
Well, we know there's a magic depth, yeah, that we think is about a half-mile down. That's below which the magma can sit happily without coming up. At that depth, there's enough pressure the gases can stay dissolved inside of there. And when it comes above that, we start forming our first bubbles. Those bubbles, they rise and rise more and expand more, and eventually they're going to come all the way out of the ground. I think of it like a champagne bottle, right? You can't just kind of pop the cork. You gotta, when you open it a little bit, the whole thing is going to come out. Until all the gas is out of there, it brings the liquid out with it. The liquid afterwards is flat and falls back to the ground. And the gas, which is kind of the driving force of the eruption, is then gone, right? So if it stays below there, then there's no gas. Once it kind of gets above that magic line, then it starts forming gas. It's going to come all the way up. So we know it's at least that deep, right?
Do you think Halemaumau hit the water table yet?
It seems definite that it did, based on the one explosion that happened maybe 4 days ago now, that made it to 30,000 feet. Now we don't know if that's going to cause more to happen, but we do know that it's possible, and in the past, once again, we'd be foolish to think that that's not going to continue. Yeah.
So I had a question, what fissures are active right now? So fissure 6, fissure 22, 20, and 17. One of the questions that I had for you, Philip, is there's tons of huge cracks that is being developed in over the course of the week in Leilani.
Yeah.
What is the cause of those cracks, and is there anything behind that?
Well, when you see the cracks kind of opening wider, yeah, which also means going down deeper, it means the ground is spreading apart. Yeah, it's actually getting spread out farther than it was before. And usually that happens because something is wedging in there, or the south flank is moving towards the ocean. So most likely it's the magma pushing its way in. So there's more magma pushing its way in that's causing the ground crack to happen. And the cracks keep moving every day, which means magma is still coming. Yeah, the amount coming out, I don't have all the data, but it seems to me like it's increasing.
Wow. So the possibility of the East Rift actually breaking off of the Hawaii island, that is a huge possibility too, right?
No, that's a myth. Yeah, I mean that's something that we thinking about for a while, and we were much more concerned with this maybe 10, 20 years ago than we are now. There's been a lot of research done, and the two main lines of evidence of why this is you can kind of get to it by looking at the underwater topography of the island. So here's a little map from the USGS homepage, and just to be clear, big landslides off Hawaii do occur, right? But when it happens, you see a pile of rubble on the sea floor. So here we can see off of southwest Mauna Loa, this kind of pattern right here is debris from a big collapse, right? South Point west, yeah. Other places would be, the most famous one is Molokai, and you can see a big debris field to the north that goes a long way, and some big pieces of land that all fell off together, right? So when you're talking about big tsunamis forming from these landslides, it's this kind of thing, this kind of pattern you look for in the seafloor. Oahu's got some too, but the key point is, you come back to the Big Island, and you don't see that debris down here, right? One probable reason is the fact that Loihi is parked right over here, and it's going to do something to affect the movement of that south flank of the ocean. Notice west of Loihi, we do see that pattern. East, we don't. So the south flank is moving, right? But it's not moving catastrophically, right? It's moving in lurches, like stopping. If it sticks, it goes in an earthquake. We also have what we call slow earthquakes, which have been happening for many years now, where the ground will move the same amount as an earthquake, but over the course of 24 hours instead of a few seconds. So that's been happening as well, yeah.
So another one is, do they know where the lava feeding into the hole is going? So in that crack.
So okay, the lava that was going in a hole, it's basically not coming out of where the hole is now. The way I think of it is like there's a blade coming out, and the blade's got multiple fingers, which are each feeding separate cracks, separate fissures, but they're really all connected at some depth, right? So it could be that we made a crack and we pinched off that, but the lava coming here is just going up this part instead.
Right.
So it's all still connected. So we might have cut off the east edge of those fissures, but that means the lava is just not coming out along a longer line, it's now coming out along in a shorter area. If that makes sense.
The USGS said that the 6.9 earthquake was supposed to relieve a small area of stress on the fault. What's the likelihood of a bigger earthquake occurring?
When is the question, right? Because big earthquakes are going to happen here for a long, long time. Yeah, being past when people may even be here. So, but as far as what I think you mean is the chance of one happening really soon, and I would say the chance is actually lower since that one released the pressure that was gone. Yeah, doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, but with the fact we've had little earthquakes still shows it's actually still moving under the pressure. The cracks are opening, the ground is moving. We're not seeing the earthquakes, so it's not stuck anymore. So that's all evidence to suggest that we're not going to see a big one like that related to what's happening now, you know, but it is going to happen again. We've had big earthquakes here in 75, you know, that was at the time reported as 7.2. Sometimes you see it now as a 7.5, and some geologists calculating energy will report it as a 7.7. So that's the range of it, right? 1868, there was an 8.0 on Mauna Loa, right? Actually, a couple of them in that range. So big earthquakes have happened here before, they're going to keep happening.
Right. So, you know, with everything being said, over 20 fissures opening up, do you think this fissure where 20 and 22 is located is the main Pu'u or main
vent?
Yeah, main vent.
Yeah, right now it seems destined to be the main vent. I mean, we don't know. You know, speaking of earthquakes, like, you know, if something does stick and a new crack opens up, then everything can change very quickly, as we saw between yesterday before dawn and after we saw that crack form. But right now, it seems like there's a very clear, established, and call it easy, for lack of a better word, path for the magma to come up through that crack to that spot. So at this point, it would take something drastic or something major to change to cut that one off. But that's the way these eruptions go. Things do change and drastic things do happen. So, I mean, it could stay there or it could not. We just really don't know. We're going to wait and see how that turns out.
So another question that I had was the amount of lava that you seen the other day coming out of those fissures. What was your thoughts on those fissures, and, you know, as far as the topography goes, it pretty much followed the line of, you know, the steepest descent, but the amount of lava, what do you think about that?
It was very impressive. That was the first thing I can say. Yeah, it's just because you see, like, what a difference it makes to have really fluid, hot Hawaii with all the gas mixed into it, that fluid, get into the ocean in less than 2 days, right?
Yeah. So another thing too, I had a question. A lot of people were asking about lays. You know, what is the effects on lays to people?
Okay, yeah. So lays,
which was a term that
lava haze. Yeah. So when lava hits the ocean, it actually will react with the salt in the ocean where there's chlorine available, and you have hydrochloric acid formed. That's one of the strongest acids there is. So that's very caustic, very corrosive. It's something you don't want to breathe, you know, or you want to avoid at all costs, right? In addition, because the lava is going in the ocean and causing little explosions, you actually get small little shards of glass that you can't really see. Yeah, and you breathe those up, they're going to cut your lungs on the inside, right? So another terrible reason to breathe that stuff, right? And then finally, you still have the sulfur coming out of the lava in less amounts there because it's had a chance to flow over top of the ground. But then you also have your regular bog on top of that. Yeah, so it's extra. The lays is terrible.
Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, we've been dealing with that a lot in Kalapana, but now it puts in perspective that it's in the Pohiki area, and it's actually going towards Opihikao Red Road, Kahena, Seaview, Kalapana, Kikala, and Black Sands. So, you know, what is your, you know, initial warning towards people, like how they can, if they want to stay, what would be the idea for them to
the idea, yeah, if you got to be in the area, you want to be indoors, not breathing the stuff, you know, like the farther it travels from the source, the more it dissipates, and it's kind of a wider, not exactly a cloud, but it's a wider area affected by the lays. So you want to be indoors, and then ideally you want to leave the area. You know, the way that this flow is going right now, there's a very wide flow front, right? So there's a lot of area producing a lot of lays. That's not likely to stay that way forever, right? It's likely to find 1 or 2 spots where it's dominantly going in, maybe more than 2, maybe 4 or 6, who knows? But it should actually be more concentrated rather than such a spread wide area. So that should get better in coming days, in theory, and assuming not another big flow doesn't come down and do the same thing again. But as far as the flow that's actually there, you'd think that it would kind of zip up in some areas. And it would concentrate delays in certain places, right? But, you know, right now what's impressive is how wide that entry is, and you have a lot of it being generated because there's a lot of area touching the water, right? So the less area touching the water, then you have less area of lays produced.
Okay, so another thing too, now we have some questions about Halimau. So those cracks outside of the Halimau crater, what is the cause of that? You know, there's tons of cracks that was happening on Highway 11, and I'm pretty sure there's tons of cracks that is happening around.
All around that maybe people aren't having a chance to find.
Halimau.
Yeah, so when a magma leaves underneath the whole Kilauea caldera, which Halimau is just like the bullseye of it, right? The whole caldera actually is the area that's the outermost cracks that happen in the past, the big faults as we call them, and where that whole ground has dropped down to relieve magma leaving the area before. So Highway 11 actually goes through the outermost cracks of the caldera, has always done so. You guys probably realize there's a sign that says caution, fault zone, watch for cracks in the road, right? So from that area, you know, all the way farther down towards Pu'u, all the way back towards the park entrance where you see the sign coming up Highway 11, that whole area is kind of skirting the edge of the outermost cracks of the caldera. So cracks that have been there already. In fact, if you drive, like, you know, through the park and look, you can see a big cliff in the woods on the right, and that's like the actual outermost crack where things have dropped in the past. For much bigger eruptions that are happening now. So we're seeing the whole area of the caldera kind of sinking in because there's less magma inside holding it up, right? Magma is a liquid rock. It has the same mass as a solid rock, right? So it can hold up a lot of weight, right? Even if it, to us, seems like a liquid thing that we pushed out of the way, especially if it's contained in an area under some pressure like a magma chamber, right? I think of the whole caldera as like a piston head over top of the magma chamber. As magma chamber fills and empties, that piston head is going to rise and fall, right? So the edges of that is where those cracks are forming, right? Usually in circles. Circles.
So another thing too from Halimau crater, how does the lava travel? I know you was talking to me about the bend down by Mauna Ulu.
Mauna Ulu, yeah, okay. So the lava is going through from the conduit deep through the rift zone towards Mauna Ulu. Have we shown a picture of the rift zone yet? I'm not sure if we have. Let me see. I can pull that one up. Just 1 second. Technology to cooperate here. This one. Alright, so here's like a fairly simple model of how we think the plumbing of the volcano works on a grand scale, right? We have a big deep conduit underneath the summit. That's what's feeding lava from the hotspot source below all this. Whoops. Where'd it go? Sorry. There it is. Okay. And then we have these 2 blades, which are very thick, yeah? This is from ½ mile down underground, all the way to 1.5 miles underground, right? Southwest rift and the southeast rift that go to the sides, right? So the lava comes up. It was kind of emerging at Halimau, or it's at least degassing through there, but it's diving back down somehow. We don't really know what the connection is like in here in detail. This is really just an abstract way we imagine it, but it goes sideways towards, in the past, Pu'u, and from there it popped open through some pathway towards the surface underneath Pu'u. Now, the recent events have actually allowed this pathway to like widen where the rift zone is able to push lava farther down the rift and pop open in a similar manner all the way down here where we are near Pahoa. Okay, so that's kind of the rift zone in general. Now, it's maybe not the best map, but up here you can see that the rift zone actually begins going southeast from the caldera through Kioiki all the way to Manaulu, and then it actually turns and goes off and then kind of east-northeast direction, right? And we don't talk about why that is, but you know, it's an interesting feature of the volcano. And the magma, when it's moving through the rift zone, it's got to come and it's got to make that turn and go around, yeah? So one thing we often see is when magma is pressurizing the rift zone, you see a bunch of earthquakes in its upper part of it, upper arm, and then swinging around and moving its way down another arm, right? So it's kind of like a bent barrel, right? So the pressure is going to come around the barrel, and once it gets around the curve, then it's got a straight shot to come all the way from Manaulu all the way down here. And now it doesn't always go all the way, obviously, because we saw Pu'u was parked for 35 years. We've seen it go all the way to Kapoho without stopping anywhere in between, like in 1960. So anything in there is possible.
Do you think Pu'u's reign is done?
I personally think that Pu'u is dead. Yeah, I think there will certainly be cracks in the area again at some point because it's on a rift zone. It's going to happen again. But I would probably not call it Pu'u anymore at that point, right? Yeah. Just like over here in this area, where there's plenty of other Pu'us around from other eruptions, and we're not calling them. The eruption is happening now, right? We're using We're going to use new names for the eruption happening now, rather than the Pu'us that are already here. Even though they're erupting very close to the same place, right? PGV has got a Pu'u right in the middle of their property, right? So that's a place where there was a fountain of lava high enough to drop that much material to form that cinder cone. Okay, so it's one thing. Anywhere you guys see a cinder cone, that was a lava fountain that happened there at some point. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's night with Philip, Mr. Philip Ong. So we'll be coming back with you if you guys have any questions later on. We'll be checking with you. But he's at the hub,
and we're trying to get him in there to see if we can get some lava. But there's a lot of stuff that is happening at PGV and a lot of lava that is kind of moving around near PGV. So they had shut down the whole area, so we won't be going in there because it's pretty dangerous. But other than that, everybody, we're gonna say our last saying: stay classy.
Buddha.
Yeah, all right.